This is a video for love, appendicular muscle, and articulation. And this lab is actually divided into stations, and there are all in all 6 stations. And each group of students will go from one station to the other station, to the next station. What I'll be discussing today is actually the station number 1, station number 3, and station number 5. In station number 1, we have what you call as the quadriceps muscle. This is the quadriceps muscle. You will notice that the quadriceps muscle, actually, all of them, the point of the insertion is actually here in the knee, this part here, or here on the medial, on the lateral and medial condyle of the tibia. The quadriceps muscle consists of 4 muscles. One is actually the vastus lateralis, and this is the lateral side of your lower limb. And you know that this is the lateral side because it is in line with your little toe. So this is the vastus lateralis. This is the rectus femoris, directly in touch, directly attached or in line with your patella. And below your rectus femoris is another muscle. Under that, if you'll remove this, is your vastus intermedius. And then you got your vastus medialis on the medial side. You'll notice in here that your rectus femoris is overlapping, is on top of your vastus intermedius. And because of that, you will notice that the proximal attachment of your rectus femoris and vastus intermedius is in the pelvis, and they are all inserted here in line. The tendon is in your patellar ligament in here. And you'll notice again your vastus lateralis, and then you got your vastus medialis. As what I mentioned before, your thigh, the muscles of your thigh actually moves your leg. So you will notice in here that the insertion actually of your quadriceps muscle is in your knee, and because of that, you'll notice that it is responsible for leg extension or extension of your knee. The next muscle group of muscle that I'll be discussing, and it is found actually on station number 3 of your love, and that is your hamstring muscle. This is your hamstring muscle. There are 3 hamstring muscles, and if you'll notice this one, it's actually below your gluteus maximus. You'll notice this one here. The first one actually is the biceps femoris, which is actually next to your vastus lateralis. The next muscle here is the semitendinosus, and the next muscle under the semitendinosus is a big muscle, this part here, which is number 17, and this is still number 17, both of this, and overlapping that is that semitendinosus, and this is your semimembranosus. You'll notice in here that if you go coming from the medial side of your lower limb, of your thigh, you have your semimembranosus, semitendinosus, and then you got your biceps femoris. To remember that one, you use the mnemonics semimembranosus, semitendinosus, tender, and then your biceps femoris, brother. My tender brother. Or if you go from the lateral side, then you start with biceps femoris. Then you got your semitendinosus and semimembranosus, and the best mnemonics for that is brother, biceps femoris, semitendinosus, take, and semimembranosus, me. Brother, take, me. If you are from here, from the medial side, my tender brother. I hope that will help a lot. The next muscle that I want to make mention actually is not a part actually of this lab, but it was mentioned in your actual in your lab last week. And I just want to mention your sartorius. If you look at this one here, this is actually your cross leg muscle that enables your leg to move actually medially, okay, to cross leg medially. And if you look at these three muscles here, that is 13, 14, and 15, all of them are your adductor muscle. 13, 14, and 15, all of them. It adducts your thigh. And the next one that I want to make mention also is your gluteus maximus, this one here, and that is your gluteus medius. The gluteus maximus, all of them are abductor muscles, and they actually abduct actually your thigh laterally. The last muscle that I want to make mention, it is on station number 5, is actually your leg muscle. I want to start here anteriorly. You'll notice that this bone here is actually your tibia. And the muscle that is attached to your tibia in front actually is the tibialis anterior, meaning front of the tibia. Tibialis anterior. If you look at this one here for tibialis anterior, you'll notice that the tibia is always in line with your big toe. And because this is actually, this is an anterior muscle in here, the muscle of the leg moves the foot. So what is the function of tibialis anterior? It dorsiflex your foot. The other muscle that is still on number 5 actually is actually your gastrocnemius and your soleus. Gastrocnemius actually, or your calf muscle actually, there are two muscles here, which is actually 24A and 24B. And under your gastrocnemius is your soleus muscle. If you look at this one here, this is soleus. That is still soleus. They are all under gastrocnemius. So, if the tibialis anterior here dorsiflex, this one here, dorsiflex your foot, what does your soleus and your gastrocnemius do? They plantar flex your foot. They plantar flex your foot. This is your calcaneal tendon muscle in here. To remember, in order to remember also with your soleus and gastrocnemius, you got soleus, which is under gastrocnemius. It is soleus, sounds, and on top of that is gastrocnemius, sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, one more time. I want to review everything in here in your lower limb. You got your 4 quadriceps muscle, your vastus lateralis, rectus femoris. Under that is vastus intermedius, and then you got your vastus medialis. Don't forget that all of this is responsible for extension of your knee, which extend actually your leg. Going back in here, this is your hamstring muscle. Next to your vastus lateralis is your biceps femoris, semitendinosus, and semimembranosus. Don't forget that they are all point of reference. They are under, next to your gluteus maximus. The main function again of your hamstring muscle is actually for a flexion of your knee, and don't forget also that all of them is also inserted here in your tibia, also on the lateral side of your tibia, and the proximal attachment is actually in your pelvic bone or coxal bone. the next, and then you got your, sartorius, the three adductor muscles. Then you got your tibialis anterior in line with your big toe, and at the back is your gluteus. It is your gastrocnemius, and under that is your soleus and your calcaneal tendon. The next muscle that I want to introduce actually is found in number 4, station 4, and station 4 and station 5. Okay, now station 2 and station 4. Okay, now this is your, we're talking about the arm muscle. This is actually your deltoid. The deltoid actually is triangular in shape, if you look at this one here. Okay, and it has an apex, it has a base in here, and that is responsible for the prime mover for abduction of your shoulder. The next muscle actually is found in your scapula. This is your scapula. Your point of reference actually is your points of reference is actually your spine of your scapula. Don't forget that this arm is going like this. Okay, so if that is the spine of your scapula, that is your supraspinatus. Then you got 3 muscles here. They are all number 2, and that is infraspinatus, and that is your teres minor. Now, on the other side also, which is actually opposite to your infraspinatus, are also 3 muscles here on the ventral side, and they are all number 6. If you look at that one, that is your subscapularis. Don't forget, the subscapularis rotates your shoulder medially, while your infraspinatus and your teres minor actually rotates your shoulder laterally, while your supraspinatus, it helps, it's a synergist actually for your deltoid muscle. It's a synergist for your deltoid muscle. The next muscle that I want to make mention, it is on station number 5, is actually still in your arm, and I am on the ventral arm. If you look at this one here, this big muscle is actually your biceps brachii. Don't forget again that the muscle of the arm moves the forearm. So if you really look at this one here, the biceps brachii is responsible for flexing the forearm, but it is not the main muscle for flexion. There's another muscle. It is a synergist muscle, a helper. But other books actually consider biceps brachii as the prime mover for your forearm flexion. Okay, the other flexion, opposite actually to your biceps brachii, actually is your triceps brachii. You know your point of reference. If you can see that olecranon on there of your elbow, that is actually the point of attachment, actually the distal attachment of your triceps. So if biceps brachii is responsible for flexion, then your tricep is responsible for extension. They are antagonists with each other. There are still two more flexor muscle of your forearm. One actually is your brachialis. If you look at this one here, brachialis, this is your biceps, that's your triceps. In between the triceps and the biceps is your brachialis, that one there. And it is so easy to remember because the apex of your deltoid is actually pointing into your brachialis. And the other flexor muscle of your arm is the brachioradialis, from the arm over here to the forearm in line with your thumb, which is actually in line with your radius. So brachioradialis. So remember, there are 3 flexor muscle of the forearm, and they all starts with letter B: biceps brachii, brachialis, and radialis. The last one that I want to talk about, over there. The last one that I want to talk about is actually your muscle that is actually in your trunk, in your head and neck. This is your frontalis. This is your orbicularis oculi. Okay, your frontalis is your surprise muscle. This is your orbicularis oculi. This is your orbicularis oris. This one here, your kissing muscle or pouting muscle. This is the muscle that closes your eye. If you look at this one here, number 11, that is your buccinator. That is your blowing muscle or whistling muscle. Number 13 is the muscle that many women, when they become older, doesn't like. Actually, is your masseter, because this is the muscle that easily sags when you are 40 years old and above. And you will notice in here, it is responsible for depression of your mandible. And on the other side in here is your temporalis, responsible for elevation of your mandible. The other muscle here that I want to make mention, which is not in your station number 6 actually, is your pectoralis muscle. If you look at your pectoralis muscle, this is your pectoralis. It is a muscle actually that moves your humerus, actually as in hugging and in climbing. And that is actually the function of your pectoralis major. And under your pectoralis major is actually your pectoralis minor. Pectoralis minor protracts your shoulder, your humerus actually, protract your humerus as in case of picking up a suitcase. Another muscle here that I want to pinpoint actually is your sternocleidomastoid, that muscle there. It actually originates in your sternum, passes through your clavicle, and it is inserted in your mastoid process. It is actually a muscle which is the prime mover for neck flexion, and it is also recruited during hard breathing also. There are 3 muscles here that I want to make mention, and they are actually 24, 25, 26. Those are the escalene muscle, 24, 25, 26, the escalene muscle. They are accessory muscles that help in breathing. Another muscle here that I want to mention is actually your trapezius. This is your trapezius muscle, responsible for shrugging your shoulder. This one here, that is your trapezius muscle. Under that, actually, if you remove that, this muscle here, number 23, that is your levator scapula, that elevate your scapula. And you will notice in here that this one here are the rhomboids. Rhomboideus minor, rhomboideus major, and this is responsible for adduction of your shoulder. I just want to mention this one here. This is actually your scapula, the spine of your scapula. If that is the spine of your scapula, that is your pectoralis, that is your supraspinatus, and that is your infraspinatus. I want to mention this one here. This is your diaphragm. The diaphragm actually is the main muscle of inspiration. And if you look at this one here, there are 2 muscles here that I really want to emphasize. And one is actually your internal intercostal, and this is your external intercostal. Internal intercostal, external intercostal. The external intercostal actually, it helps the diaphragm. It is a synergist for the diaphragm, which is actually the prime mover for breathing. The internal intercostal is actually it is recruited actually during expiration. So this is for inspiration, and this is for expiration, or taking off the air. If you look at this one here also, this part here, this is your serratus anterior, or serratus ventralis. Serratus ventralis, actually, this is considered to be the boxer muscle, which is responsible for forward reaching and also for pushing also. That's why it's called the boxer's muscle. The last muscle that I want to make mention is actually your latissimus dorsi in here. The latissimus dorsi actually is responsible also for the backward swimming, and also for when you row your boat, and that is the muscle responsible for that. The last muscle in here actually is your erector spinae. The erector spinae is responsible actually for flexion of your vertebra. Opposite to that, the antagonist muscle to that actually is your rectus femoris, that one there, which is responsible for flexion actually of your torso. And the last muscle, this is your external oblique, this one here, and in here is your internal oblique. This is your external intercostal, internal intercostals. That's it.